Hello and welcome to the 2020 Huntsville Council of PTAs Leadership Training. My name is Lisa Hudson and I am the current Council Secretary. I want to start by thanking you for joining me in this training of understanding my role as a PTA Secretary. And I wanted to share this quote with you, which I believe it goes so well with what it means to be a PTA leader, a member, a volunteer. If not us, who, if not now, when, by JFK and John Lewis. And it goes perfectly with what we do as volunteers in this organization. And I also want to just commend you for answering the call and taking the action, because PTA needs you and our community needs you. I also want to note that the role of the council is to serve as a resource to our local PTAs and their leaders. And we've facilitated this training to equip you and help you so that we can all work together more efficiently and make every child's potential a reality by engaging and empowering families and communities to advocate for all children. And the thing is, we want to ask ourselves is, how can we be more effective? Well, first of all, you've done it. You did it. You took the first step. So congratulations. The next thing you want to do is just get organized. You are going to be the official record keeper of the organization, such as keeping an accurate list of members, minutes, governing documents, committee membership. And another thing that you want to really make sure that you secure is communication. You will conduct correspondence and file records, such as sending official notice of meetings, preparing the annual report, and you will be working with the president to prepare the agenda. The PTA Secretary roles are very straightforward. You will record the minutes of all meetings of the PTA. You work with the president to create the meeting agenda if requested by the president. You just want to make yourself available, that you are there to assist him in the case that the president does need help in drafting it. You will send out meeting announcements, agendas, and supporting documents prior to meeting. Conduct correspondence, thank you notes, reminders. You will take attendance and check for quorum during voting, count votes, and record motions. You want to maintain an updated membership list. You will file records along with your president, just to maintain good standing or establish or just relinquish the unit PTA, whichever it is that you want to do. You present the draft minutes of the previous meetings and make corrections. Maintain and preserve PTA records and important documents in order to pass on at the end of the term. You call meetings to order in the absence of the president or vice president. You count as a rising vote when requested by the presiding officer. And it's very important that you have a current copy of the bylaws and Robert Rules of Order, which is standard for PTA, and uses Parliamentary Procedure, which we'll learn more about that and what it means. Let's look at a couple of key terms for reference. A motion is a formal proposal by a member that the PTA unit take a certain action. A motion that brings business before the PTA is called a main motion. For quorum, the minimum number of members must be present in order for a PTA to conduct business. That's what a quorum means. You cannot take votes on business matters unless one is present. Usually your bylaws shall include a provision by establishing quorum. It will tell you the count, majority, or what it means to have a quorum. The agenda is it's just an order of business. It's a sequence of items that must be covered for the specific meeting. For Parliamentary procedure is the set of rules for conducting orderly meetings that accomplish goals fairly, and we use Robert Rules of Order as reference. We're going to look into that a little bit later. Minutes, remember that these are permanent legal records of all actions taken by associations, and they do not belong to us as a person. It's record of the PTA, and they must be retained forever, passing them on to the next secretary, and so forth and so on. Here are more key terms. Bylaws, they govern an organization's operations and contain the basic rules relating to itself as an association. The procedure book is very important. It's all material related to a PTA office or committee. It contains official records and may be kept and passed on in a binder. You can keep it on a flash drive or in electronic files, but it must be stored on the cloud to access and download. I strongly suggest that you keep a hard copy and file of everything that is an official record of the PTA, because it's so much easier to find it on reference. Always hard copy. Standing rules are administrative and establish specifics for conduct, such as the time, date, frequency of committee meetings, or the use of petty cash. Provisions, and remember that provisions in the bylaws always supersede any standing rule that may be adopted. What's in the agenda? Now, this is just a sample of what should be in your agenda. A call to order, declare quorum to conduct business, a reading and approval of minutes. You can have a financial report, reports of officers, board and standing committees, special committee reports, if available, principal report, teacher report, if applicable, unfinished business, new business, announcement, programs, and adjournment. Prepare an agenda for every single meeting. It's very important that every member receives a copy prior to the meeting, and if I would suggest you distribute electronically in advance, especially right now, we're doing everything electronically over the computer and unable to have face-to-face meetings. You can also look over the website, it could be the council or the state, to access governing documents, and if you need a sample or copy of the bylaws or standing rules of Alabama PTA, you can find that in our website and also in the Alabama website. Remember that when it comes to bylaws, they always supersede any standing rules. Okay, let's look over what parliamentary procedure means. There is a standard use of Robert Rules of Order. Here's a little picture of the Robert Rules of Order book looks like. There's a lot of editions, a lot of versions. There are guides, overview books. Just wanted to give you a little bit of a reference so you know what it is. And we use parliamentary procedure because we want to make sure that justice and courtesy is for all, maintenance of order. We want to consider one subject at a time. We want to make sure that rules of majority is reflected and the rights of the minority to be protected. We don't want to be partial to anybody either. What to bring to meetings. The procedure book and standard documents or supplies. For the procedure book, you want to make sure that in it there is an executive board roster with some contact information, such as emails, job description, handouts, and copies for reference, and also in case you need to invite other community members, PTA members, or parents that have an interest in joining the board or any committees. You want to have those copies available for distribution because it is a great opportunity, and you don't want to miss the window of opportunity. They may change their mind and not want to join anymore, so take advantage of having those job description copies available for your reference as well. Our current unit of bylaws and standing rules, if adopted. There are bylaws and standing rule links on our Huntsville Council of PTAs website that link up to the Alabama PTA, and it is for you to utilize those resources. The agendas and minutes from previous meetings, along with the budget and financial information, because those records, remember, belong to PTA, and you want to keep that. PTA calendar of events or monthly duties, just for reference. Make sure that no events, there's any conflict. And then meeting agenda, because remember, we want to make sure that every official meeting has an agenda so we can remain more efficient. And when it comes to standard documents that are in your procedure book, a list of membership, motion forms, ballots or paper for ballot voting, and those motion forms and ballots are made available to you in the website. There are samples and you can print them out and you're done. The Robert Rules of Order, the standard use for Parliamentary Procedure, the PTA, materials for note taking, such as your laptop, computer. You can record the meeting for to go back on in reference if you need to. And then contact information of community and business partners, especially if a relationship has been established and they have been helpful in sponsoring. You want to keep that information always. Tips for taking notes. Okay, let's look at the minutes. Now remember that minutes are legal documents and the official and historical record of the actions of the PTA organization. They are permanent records and should be kept in the procedure book. Minutes should be brief and factual. Remember that you state what is done, not what is said. You have the agenda as reference and guidance for the meeting and all background information pertaining to the meeting. You have a complete list of all attendees of the meeting. You can use a sign-in sheet when needed. And you also want to record motions properly. Record final and amended motions. Keep in mind that PTA minutes are produced only for members and are not for public distributions. However, you can post summary version of what happened at the meeting, just to distribute and to let PTA members know what happened at the meeting. Don't forget that minutes should include the name of your PTA. Minutes should include the date, time, and place of meeting, the name of your presiding officer, and here's an example. You can just write it down like a meeting was called to order by President Veronica McMillan at 1:10 p.m. There you go. Members in attendance, there was quorum established. There should also be approval of minutes of previous meetings, either approved or approved as corrected or amended. Summarize reports of officers and chairs to include budget or monthly treasurer's report and should be attached to minutes. All motions in the name of the person that made the motion, announcements, time of adjournment, and the name and signature of the secretary. Okay, here is an example of approving minutes. Let's say, for example, that the chair says, are there any additions or corrections to the meeting minutes? And remember that it does not require a motion to approve. So you can say the minutes stand approved as distributed, or the minutes stand approved as corrected or amended. Corrected or amended, they're interchangeable. Let's look at how to process a motion. Recognize the maker of motion, who's bringing the motion forward. The member states the motion proposal. I move that. And based on your Parliamentary Procedure, Robert Rules of Order, this is standard way of you bringing a motion forward. I move that. Member seconds the motion, and for us as an audience to be able to discuss the motion, you need somebody to second the motion. Otherwise, it's dropped. So you just say that second, or I second the motion. And you can repeat the motion. That way you allow the audience to understand what motion is being brought forward. After you members discuss the motion, you vote on the motion, and the motion is carried. Record motion and the maker's name with the result of the vote. Now, please keep in mind that minutes focus on content and outcome of the motions, not who said what during the discussion. Just this motion carried, record the motion, the maker's name, and the result. It's easy and it's beneficial to everybody if you clarify the question on which members are voting. So on number 4, when it says repeat the motion, doesn't happen in all meetings, but it's in benefit of everybody to just repeat it so people know what they're voting on. There should be a clear yay or nay vote to show whether the motion was approved, defeated, or tabled. So if it was defeated, you record the motion. If it was approved, record, table, record. Let's say, for example, on the very bottom of there by the red letters, there is an example. Adam Silver moved to hold a Reflections Awards ceremony on Sunday, April 5th. The motion was adopted by consensus. Okay. There's another motion. This is how you can record it. All the computers in the library should be replaced with new and current models. Motion introduced by Jess Williams. Motion not seconded. Motion failed. So nobody seconded the motion, and it was failed. So remember, on number 3, nobody seconds the motion, then it's a failed motion. For amending a motion, before the vote is taken on a motion, it can be amended by inserting words, sentences, or paragraphs, striking out words, sentences, or paragraphs, by striking out and inserting words, or amending by substitution. I would note corrections in the margin if you want to as well. After the meeting, you want to finish your minutes. You want to send a copy, often by email, for review by the PTA board members, and then make any changes as you need accordingly. Now be sure to approve minutes at the next meeting. Always. Once meeting minutes are approved, distribute copies to members, print a copy, and file in the procedure book. Remember, you always want to keep a copy of the agenda, copy of the meeting minutes once they're approved for record keeping in your procedure book. Very easy, not much. Now consider this. Hold meetings when and where people naturally congregate. Okay. Like if you see that people from your community school usually go to this community center that's right across the street from the school, and they go there more often than if they would go to the actual school. Okay, you can hold it at the community center. Try to find what are the guidelines for holding it there. Just you have to be more flexible when it comes to holding the meetings. And when. Very important question too. When. You want to sit near a president and serve as a resource to the president. The closer you sit when you're taking minutes, the easier it is for you to be able to hear and reference. You want to give everyone a chance to participate. Very importantly, you want to consider people's schedules because both parents may work, or maybe mom have to work, or dad have to work, or grandma and grandpa are with them and they have schedules, or a guardian, or you don't know, family structure, and you have to take that into account. You know the schedules, the languages is very important as well. We try to make any announcement in other languages. If there is a parent that wants to be active, invite them so that they can serve as a resource to other parents. It can be a translator to you. They can translate documents or announcements, and you can reach more parents that way. And also physical needs. You want to be considerate of that. Okay, so there may be some extended responsibilities for you as a secretary. Perhaps not, the board is incomplete, or perhaps it is, but during this pandemic with COVID-19, we have to learn to navigate the current situations that we're in. And I would try, if you can, to do correspondence also through social media, if possible. You can publish and distribute official announcements and important news through school media and web platforms. So just have if you already have it for your school PTA website, or the Facebook page or Twitter page, and you want to distribute official announcements and important news from the district to your PTA Facebook page. You want to communicate with your board and find ways to fulfill functions in different ways that have the same result. In this current situation is a clear example of that. How can you accomplish your goals that you have for your PTA with remote learning, not being able to go to schools, and possibly not being able as volunteers to go into the schools? You have to learn to navigate these special circumstances. I currently, as a secretary, am assisting in publishing important and official national PTA, state PTA, and school district news, also state of Alabama news. Now, these are official announcements, and they are shared in social media through our council Facebook page. And you have to also keep in mind that these must be official announcements, and they can only come from certain accounts. We'll look into that. Let's look at some social media etiquette. When using social media as your source of information, remember to only post information from National PTA, your Alabama PTA, Huntsville Council of PTAs, Huntsville City Schools, and those include the Huntsville City School District schools, the official district, city government, and state government office social media accounts. And you check for the blue check mark for recognition of government affiliation, and then also for official verification. The blue check mark next to the name, that's how you know it's a legitimate source. All information must come from these sources only. You can also ask your president if you're unsure, or the council. PTA must never support or oppose political parties or candidates, including those running for school boards on nonpartisan slates. Social media guidelines. Now, you may speak for yourself, but your actions reflect on the organization. So please do not post confidential information, accusatory statements, or defamatory information. Always be respectful, always be truthful, be discreet and responsible, no matter your privacy settings, because if your profile picture somehow identifies you as a PTA, when you're posting on other sites, whether it's public or private, people will know that you're a PTA. So you want to keep that in mind. And now remember the PTA non-commercial, non-sectarian, non-partisan policies when you're posting on sites. Very important to remember that and keep that in mind. Offensive or inappropriate content shall not be tolerated. Content will be removed and the author banned from the site or the page, Offensive or inappropriate content, what does it include? Well, anything that isn't child friendly, personal attacks, spam, copyrighted material, bullying of any kind. And remember that we are here to help Huntsville Council of PTA, the Alabama, and the National. Take advantage of the resources that are provided to you by unit, council, and state. And when it comes to the social media, just remember that as a secretary, you keep and maintain correspondence with email communication, and the meeting platforms that you might be using are going to be a little different this year. It's not going to be a face-to-face. It's not going to be able to held, at an office or at the school, or maybe you used to be at somebody's house, now you can't. Or maybe it was at a restaurant or the coffee shop. But doing it virtual is going to give us more flexibility, and it does present more opportunities to reach those that were reluctant to join before. They may be open to helping on the board, and you want to consider those opportunities and just understand that given the circumstances, we are doing everything we can, and it's coming out pretty well. What did we learn in this presentation? Identify the basic roles and responsibilities of a PTA secretary. We also learned that we must use parliamentary procedure, and our standard is Robert Rules of Order. We can recognize what belongs in minutes. We know how to process a motion. We understand the importance of the minutes and record retention. We looked over our social media guidelines and etiquette. And we will remember to utilize unit, district, council, state, and national PTA resources. And I also want to ask you to please consider reaching your community through social media. Create your unit PTA Facebook at minimum. It's so easy to share a post from the National PTA, the Alabama PTA, or your council PTA. And just remember during these times that people are spending more time online, and that is the place where you can reach them. Please make sure that the posts published are with information from the approved sources. And remember that as a board member, you are a representative of the PTA Association. And I must just repeat that we are a non-partisan organization, and we do not tolerate offensive or inappropriate content. Please, please, please be mindful of our audience. Kid-friendly, child-friendly. And we are a team and working together. And please utilize the resources. Finally, I want to thank you very much for spending this time in building your skills and knowledge and being a PTA secretary. Thank you.